Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Sam here. This is day 3 of the reset week, which means it's the last day of the carnivore diet, and then from tomorrow onwards it will be water fasting through till Sunday. So a little bit apprehensive about that because I haven't done it for a while, but one of you did say that wouldn't make it to 3 days. Well, I've done 9 days before, so it's going to be okay. I've got the discipline to do this, but I haven't had the discipline to be pure carnivore on these 3 days. I have to admit, on my first dish here, where I'm sat in the global buffet, it's come with the sauce, but I'm not being so strict about things. A little bit of sauce on there. There'll be 1 or 2 traces of non-starchy veggies. My next dish is going to be all of the lamb and fish, and I'm having a big meal. It's actually a little bit of a celebration because the channel has reached a certain point. I can now report with the channel that I've reached my first 1,000 subscribers. So this is something of a victory meal, and I'm on to plate 2 here. This is 4 lamb steaks, 2 white fish, and a load of non-starchy veggies, or just a few actually, because we're almost carnivore, but I am very happy and very grateful to have reached 1,000 subscribers. I suppose I shouldn't say my first 1,000 subscribers because that's a bit presumptuous of me. That kind of presumes there'll be more, and I have to report that I'm actually very grateful with what I've got here, and the engagement that I've had has been more than I've expected. So I'd like to thank you all that have been on this little journey and content creation escapades from very early on, because there's much more to come. I will continue, and I suppose and hope that it will continue to grow as I continue to deliver things that at least some of you are interested in. So I do like it when you engage with me in the comments, and I'm able to provide a bit of advice here and there and get a steer on what you guys find the most helpful and interesting from my content, and consider options there. So any requests that you do have, put them in the comments, and I'll consider that for upcoming video series. The week that I'm doing at the moment was in response to someone earlier on, Morgan actually, who asked about fasting, and I thought, you know, eventually I'll get around to having a way that slots in nicely for covering fasting, so that'll all be coming in from tomorrow. I did have another sort of demanding request, well, not a request but an idea the other day. One of you suggested or asked how quickly I could do the 100-yard dash now that I'm nearly 300 pounds, and that'll have to be something that I'd have to attempt to find out. So I'm going to take that as a request. I'm going to get on a running track at some point in the coming days and do that for your amusement, I suppose. But definitely I feel like marking the occasion with a meal out, and it fits nicely to do the carnivore mode meal out while I'm at this buffet, and they can grill me all of these lovely lamb steaks and fish, and it will be nice timing for eating nothing from tomorrow through to Sunday. We've done that really well. But I'm very keen to talk more and more about nutrition, as for me, out of all the factors in bodybuilding, it's number 1. I really do think that nutrition edges out the rest in terms of getting the best benefit of the other parts. I feel like it's really the nutrition that's the key to unlocking the efficacy of the training, the health and lifestyle factors, the PED efficacy, really all like sits on that foundation of nutrition. So I'm very keen on it, and I'm sort of hoping to provide more content in the coming months that provides more detail on that, because I sort of feel like we've simplified this down to calories and macronutrients when there's far, far, far more to it than that. And in the circuit of nutrition conferences and research I've been a part of in years before, they sometimes call this simplifying down nutritionism. That's kind of the word for it that's knocking about now, and there's so much more to it. I have explained in previous videos the differences between different types of carbohydrates and which nutrients specifically count as carbohydrates, you know, namely lactose, galactose, fructose, sucrose, glucose, you know, all of that. And I've tried to provide helpful content for others. So even though I'm not plant-based, for example, I did do a video explaining how to get complete spectrum of essential amino acids that the body can't produce on its own from combinations of plant foods, and explained that whole concept and gave loads of example meals in a previous video. So I'm trying to give that kind of granular level of detail here with the nutrition side, because I feel like that's kind of lacking in more the bodybuilding niche, where we do this kind of calories and grams of protein and sort of don't interrogate it much further than that when it's absolutely so key. I mean, you know, something, here's just an example off the top of my head of something that's got kind of simplified down in a way that's now almost not accurate, you could say. When we talk about grams of fat, we'll talk about different foods being saturated fat or unsaturated fat. You've got mono-unsaturated fat and poly-unsaturated fat. But people talk about these foods as if you can separate those out, or they sort of talk about eggs and red meat as if they're the saturated fat, and things like avocados as if they're the polyunsaturated fat and unsaturated fat, when the reality is in natural foods, those three don't come apart. And that's very different to how the different carbohydrates come apart in different foods. Let's break that down a little bit more. So you can have a plant food that has glucose, fructose and sucrose, but it doesn't have starch, it doesn't have lactose or galactose, and so those different carbohydrates come apart, you know, you could say, and the grams is the grams of carbohydrate is the total grams of carbohydrate that they are, which could be, you know, just starch, or it could be glucose, fructose and sucrose. Those three tend to come together, but not always. But when it comes to fat, there are no foods that are just saturated fat or just polyunsaturated fat or just unsaturated fat. You always get a bit of all three, and you get very, very few foods that are pure fat or almost pure fat, you know. So what the reason I'm explaining that is, say, take this steak here, this lovely lamb steak, where people think, you know, that's a saturated fat, but the reality is the weight of that food item is mostly water, a little bit ash, quite a bit of protein, and then a minimal amount of fat, and then within that fat, some of it is saturated fat, some of it's monounsaturated fat, some of it's polyunsaturated fat. They don't come apart. And that's the kind of detail I want to get into with the foods. And even when we talk about like essential nutrients, some of the things that are beneficial to the body are not even considered essential nutrients yet. So for example, another example that would be relevant to this dish in front of me here is coenzyme Q10, which plays a role in the production of ATP. Can be very beneficial. We see supplements with it, but it's not yet considered an essential nutrient. But in real foods, you get it in meat, fish, and just a few vegetables. And so I really want to break down what you get with the different foods and how to put them together into diets. I've tried to introduce these concepts in the Planning the Bulking Diet and Planning the Cutting Diet videos, which I can dig out for you if you want to comment below. But always a focus on nutrition, and I just love it with real food. I tend to be more of a believer in real food and the body recognising real food rather than powdered food, which is kind of what all the supplements are versus a real meal. And I've been feeling really good on my food lately with this 3-day carnivore run, as it's made me look forward to my meals more. That for the first time in nearly a year, I've actually found myself hungry, and that appetite has made me enjoy my meals more, rather than on my bulking program just eating so much. I'm never truly hungry. I'm just in a state of readiness for the next meal, but not actually hungry for it to a point that I can appreciate it as much as I'm appreciating now. So this phase, while I'm not growing at the moment, and I've lost, you know, about 14 pounds since the bulking challenge, it's been very enjoyable, and I hope it's going to set me up for further success with the growth in the months following, to have given my digestive system a break from eating so much so regularly. Go a little bit more caveman carnivore, eat it with my hands, getting around the bones in these. Unfortunately, they didn't have beef today, so I just got more lamb and a bit of fish to supplement it as well, and I'll have at least one more plate just like this. And that'll be me for the last meal before the fast, and a little celebration of how the channel's getting on here. But the rest of today's not been an awful lot to report because it's been a little bit of light exercise this morning. It wasn't like a weights workout, so there was no sense in filming that. And then the meal for meal one, breakfast, was the steak and egg, which I put on the video, my tips for cooking that to perfection 2 days ago. So there was no need to include that. And this edition is just the carnivore meal out, and a few thoughts on nutrition. And me having my little celebration here. It's been really interesting, like, for me, growing a YouTube channel, because it's all completely new to me. I only started, I think, just before December, like, playing around with this. And I'm much happier with how it's going now, having got used to filming in different places, and that the workouts are more popular, and that I know the plan ahead, how to keep this interesting and keep more content that you're interested in flowing through. So in the coming months, I'll be doing a video on every separate compound out there, every separate version of the diet out there that I've done. Every workout will continue. More about competitions, more about the progress of others that I'm helping, and more interviews, all sorts of content. So if you like that kind of blend of content that cover all topics in bodybuilding, please consider subscribing as well. But yeah, unfortunately, if you're subscribing now, you're too late to be in the first 1,000 of the core subscribers there that I've been trying my best to help and communicate with all along. But I shall continue to respond to all the comments and keep those chats going and getting more of a feel for what you guys enjoy, because ultimately this is meant to be content that's useful and practical and relatable and applicable. I'm not sort of doing much of the entertainment side, as you may have noticed. I'll try and, like, if something funny happens where I'm filming, I'm always grateful and I'll leave it in, or if there's something funny to mention, it'll throw it in, or just try and keep things moving. But I'm not covering the drama stuff, so it is primarily to help you guys. So I hope that those of you that have talked to me in the comments and are on a particular goal or program do keep me and the rest of us updated how you get on, because that's my purpose here. That's plate 2 done, the lamb and the fish. I'll have to go back up to my friend on the fryer to make exactly the same again, because that was delicious. But they know me in all these restaurants I keep coming to, and it's like the ones where you have to pay for each thing that you're having, like a normal set menu and stuff. I come in and they're rubbing their hands ugly. These places that are an all-you-can-eat or something, it's like they're nearly running off in terror. So I park myself in to absolutely kill it, like at the Radicchio or the all-you-can-eat buffet. It's played a key role in getting me to my 300 pounds challenge I just finished. So I'll tell you what, if you want to see just a bulking journey in action, check out that playlist on the journey to 300 pounds, because it's got some of my nutritional instructionals in it. It's got all the workouts and all my remarks about bulking in general. But that's it for that phase. So I expect that I will end up reaching the BMI level of morbid obesity by the end of this year, because for me at my height that would be 320 pounds. So I feel like if I get going again with bulking early June, and I take what I've learned from this last time round, and I work really hard, and I have the whole system more effective from what I'm doing this week and later this month, for my health and for my digestive system and all of that, and put that all together and run it again from June, I feel like I could be 20 pounds heavier than the top end that I just achieved this time. And then I'll hold on to that muscle for a while into the new year, just kind of solidify it there. That's total bro science, by the way. Like, this is just like, you know, you're never going to find a study on like holding that much mass and hanging on to it while cutting down in a bodybuilding context. So this is just the thing that bodybuilders believe. They believe that if you've made some gains they're less fragile to being lost, that new muscle, when you cut down, if you have them for a while, you know, so if you maintain for a while before cutting, or if you've carried that muscle from program to program for a number of years, they're more solid and less fragile to atrophy and muscle loss as you cut down. So that, you know, I don't discount bro science, I don't discount the words of experience and that, because there are no studies truly on bodybuilding, and so you have to look at those who succeed and get a flavour for what works when you put everything together. And yeah, I don't intend to be in a rush to compete. I intend to make the gains again on a second time round from June into 2025, sit on it for a while, and then gradually cut down and look at kind of contests in the middle part of next year, I suppose. But the purpose is not just like the end goal and the shows and the competition and what I look like at the end. It's the enjoyment of the process, and bodybuilding really is like predominantly a lifestyle subculture based around like processes and activities that you do. And so to really enjoy bodybuilding and really enjoy, you know, physique development more broadly, you've got to enjoy the process and the tasks involved. So you've got to love your training, you've got to love this way of eating, and you've got to love the clean living and kind of sleep hygiene and all of that supplements it. And then at a certain level you've got to love all of the extras as well. And if you don't love those things, you don't really love bodybuilding, because it's never going to be acceptable as a mainstream sport, and it's not actually interesting to most people involved as a competitive sport. People are more interested in changing their own body and enjoying training and stuff like that. So it's this whole thing where, while I'm goal orientated and look at people's progress that I'm looking after there, I do want to emphasize that you just got to love this process. And if you don't love this process, then you might be happier like focusing on something else, or just allocating a certain like amount of commitment to bodybuilding, as long as it's the amount that you can stick with and measure against and enjoy. But this is a process that I really enjoy. I have done for 20 years, and what's adding to the process that I'm enjoying even more than I ever expected is making this content for you guys. That's become part of my process to document what I do and provide encouragement and advice and information along the way, and that's become part of my process now. It's probably the main part of my process now. So to wrap up the video, now that we're at 1,000 subscribers, I just want to say thank you so much for adding to what I can enjoy from this whole thing by adding in a lot more of helping other people and making friends on the way, because this has been 20 years for me and it's still what I really enjoy. But adding all of that in by having that engagement with you guys there and the subscriptions and getting more and more involved in that side of it is an activity that I really love and gives me satisfaction from what I've ended up accruing in an experience over 20 years. So I'll leave it at that. not get too overwhelmed by this, but I have to say I am really grateful, and I'll be back online tomorrow. Cheers.